Nothing awkward here. You guys are all like...
We're already best friends.
Dude.
We almost didn't say a word to each other the whole time. The first 20 minutes, we all just stared at each other.
I mean...
We were just like staring. Like,
yeah. Welcome to the podcast club.
I like it. I think I kind of fit in.
I mean, you guys are killing it right now. I should probably leave, honestly. This is amazing.
We went around the world and back. We did it all.
Dude, I can only imagine. I can only, I'm just pissed because I've been like super prepared for this one and then I'm so late. So
That's what happens when you go on a boat, right?
Yeah, and it was cool. I filmed a bunch of stuff for like a new boat client, which is like just
cool.
It's a cool thing to say out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, what's up, boat people? Right here. And so we went out at like 6 a.m. And so I thought for sure I'd be back by now, but didn't happen.
It's that boat life.
But I flew the drone, and it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, putting that thing back on the boat.
Over water.
And then this boat with all these fishing poles, it was crazy, son. When I landed the drone, I was literally shaking. I was like that guy in Airplane. I was like... Don't call me Shirley.
What was the boat? Like, you're not like doing I'm on a boat too, like the sequel to that music video or anything, right? Like, what was it?
I hope you are.
No.
That would be sweet.
No, that would be horrible. People would be like, why is there an old lady on a... What is happening? No, I met somebody down here who is fascinating, right? This is kind of what I want to talk to you about, Alex, is, 22 years old, owns a boat, like moved here 2 days after me, already has a business and a boat and like an office space. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, what is happening, dude? And he does sport fishing. And so he's been in the like, yeah, he's been a boat captain for like 7.
Because it kind of makes sense to have a boat.
Yeah.
Definitely. and so, but it was this whole operation with like, 12 different fishing poles and like, I mean, it was a whole thing. And we caught 2 or 4, I don't know. I don't even know. I got Sun Boys thing, I think. 4 huge mahi, like these huge, beautiful green blue fish. Yeah, I have this huge bag of fish in my refrigerator right now.
Nice.
Awesome.
So you're flying us all down?
I know. What's up, man? Like boat trip.
Come on.
Podcast club. Boat version.
Have them swing the boat by.
Yeah.
Pick us up.
Seriously.
I'm in Jacksonville. Have them ride up, pick me up, and then we'll I'll leave from here.
See you in 3.5 months. That's how long that was.
Right.
Everything feels like it takes a long time until you get on a boat, and then you're like, oh, this is actually a long time.
Right.
Yeah. Pretty intense, man. Well, dude, thank you for being here. I'm super excited.
Of course, yeah.
I knew you guys would all get along, but I'm pretty fascinated by like what you got going on with PodMatch right now. And so I have like these rapid fire questions I want to ask you. Are you ready?
Perfect. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, awesome. So Alex, where are you from originally?
Jacksonville, Florida. Born and raised, still live here today.
Killing it.
Wow, native.
Consistency.
Floridian.
One of the few.
Yes.
Consistency is key. I like that. All right, and when did you start PodMatch?
I started it, actually I had the idea for it on March 10th, 2020. I launched into early beta on June 15th, 2020.
Fucking killing it.
Wow.
Okay, and then is
super fast.
Yeah, super fast, dude.
That's awesome.
The dude knows how to adapt. Adaptation Alex is what they used to call him in high school, actually.
Yep, I'm going to write that one down. They didn't call me anything in high school that I know of, so I'm going to write that one down and claim it.
That's a good one. If one other person says it, it's true. That's what I learned from American politics. Okay, and so was it just you that started the company, or do you have business partners, or like how did this all come about?
Yeah, so a little bit of a story there. I was actually at PodFest, the global summit, like in person. I don't know if you guys remember this, but like we used to go to conferences in person, like shake hands, high five, hug, and that was like socially acceptable. Yeah. But funny story about that is a little side note. We could probably, I don't know if y'all are gonna want to cut this out or not, but they gave people these green dots if you didn't want to be touched. Yeah. And I'm like, why not a red dot? Like green makes it seem like you want a hug, right? Like it's like the Michael Scott way. It's like, go ahead and don't touch me is what it means. So anyway, while I was there, I was speaking at that conference. And when I got off stage, I told my wife that I'm going to speak to as many people as I can because no matter how good or bad of a speaker you are, people line up to talk to you. That's just kind of part of it. So I said I'm going to ask people what they're struggling with in podcasting because I want to do more for this industry. And I talked to about 100 people while I was there. And the commonality I found was, hey, I can't find the right guests for my show. And interestingly enough, I found in that same room of people, I'd go to the other side of the room and there's about 2,000 people here. And I met people that were there that weren't even podcasters. They had an online course. They were public speakers. They were authors, some sort of service provider. And they were saying they were there because they wanted to meet podcasters and interview them. And even while I was there, I found myself pairing people up and being like, oh, I just talked to someone who would probably be a great fit for you, kind of doing what PodMatch does manually, if you will. And me not being the quickest person around, I came home still not knowing what to do with that. I didn't have the idea, but I remember I was actually, at this point, the world shut down, so I had a lot of time to think. And I was outside doing a kettlebell workout, and it literally just like, it hit me in that moment. Not the kettlebell, the idea hit me in that moment. I should clarify that. I did not hit myself with a kettlebell. But I ran inside, and I have whiteboards that are behind this screen that's behind me now, and I just mapped the whole thing out. And that same night, I kind of looked at him like, this is a good idea. I know people would be interested in this. And I called an old friend of mine that I worked with years ago on a side project that he and I had. And he's a great software developer. And I said, hey, man, I've got this idea. I'd love to just go 50-50 with you. And we're both the type of people that are really great with that type of thing. Like, let's just drop it down the middle, both start working on this. And so that was March 10th when that happened. And the rest was kind of history. We just started building it from that day forward.
And so, if
awesome.
any of these questions are like questions you don't want to answer, you can just like hit the I plead the fifth button and be like,
that's pretty rare, but
opting out. Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so when you and your business partner decided to do this, did you have was there any capital investment? Did it cost any money, or was it just sweat equity and like design? Like you were marketing it, he was building it. Is that kind of is that correct?
Yeah, so because we both had worked together previously on a project, we kind of naturally knew our roles, if you will. So we knew what he'd be good at, what I'd be good at. So we talked about that night, and we signed not the best 50-50 agreement, but we wanted something in writing just to say, hey, let's legally do this. And later on went to a better attorney that could actually draft that up properly and kind of move that forward. But initially we dropped $5,000. We just did half and half there, put into account and started with that and just started building. So for me, it was going back to those 100 people that I met and asking them, hey, when we launch this, will you be a beta tester? Will you test it out for us? And starting to build some copy and things like that. And he just started developing that software. Actually, that same night, he was excited about it and started building that same day. So we really hit the ground running. Okay,
so you are like your 14-month mark then? Wait, what month is it? It's April, right? I'm like, who are you people? Where am I? What's going on? It's April, right?
That's what too much sun will do to you, you know?
Oh, no, I'm like this all the time. Okay, so you're like 13 months into this business, right? And I know you got to be looking at these numbers. I know you're looking at your QuickBooks dashboard, or QuickBooks dashboard, all of that. What kind of growth have you seen in this? Like, what was your growth like in your first 6 months compared to your second 6 months, right? Because I think those are almost more important.
Yeah, definitely. So the product was actually launched on June 15th. So that's when we started collecting that data, if you will. Initially, we launched with no paid side of it, just a free version. And we actually launched with those 100 people that I met. So all of them, thankfully, agreed to jump on there and to test it. And we launched this thing, MVP to the max. We told them, hey, it's not going to be pretty. We don't have a logo. We don't have this. This is what it's supposed to do. Tell us if it's working. So the first 6 months, I'd say, not even the first 6 months, basically till December, we really just worked on perfecting, if you will, like that beta model of it. So could we continuously improve it, make it better and better, and really do what people want it to do? So when December hit, we started, that's when we came up with like our marketing plans and things like that. In January is where we really hit the ground running and starting to grow it. So our MRR, monthly recurring revenue, at the beginning of December was just under $1,000 a month. And today it's almost at 10,000 a month now.
Fuck yeah!
So we've experienced some great growth, which I'm excited about. And like the money, I always get like weirded out with sharing that because I more so care about what people are saying about it, and it's helping a lot of people. So we've got, at time of recording this, we have almost 9,000 people using the platform, and it's really helping a lot of people out. We get great like testimonial emails every single day, so it makes me feel like I'm actually leaving a mark in the industry that I care so much about. So I'm really excited to be doing this. The money's a great byproduct because it ensures that me and my business partner can both continue to do this full time, because we do this full time, but it's just really a means to be able to serve these people on a high level, which that's what makes me really excited about it.
Well, Alex, that's exactly why I wanted to ask you these questions, because like I'm just watching the growth. I see how dedicated you are. I see like what a stand-up dude you are. I see how much effort you're putting into it, and I just think it's fantastic that like in a pandemic, you saw a need, you know what I mean? You saw this need right before the pandemic. I was there. I was at PodFest too, and you just, because that was like the last public event, like we all like, said goodbye and went home and then like locked ourselves in our houses for a year.
Right.
And so it's
Unfortunately, yes.
It's such a great testament of like what you can do, right? Like when life gives you lemons or whatever that shit is, you know what I mean? Like you really embraced it. Like you saw a need in the industry, and not just a need, but something that filled like your passion and a need, right? Because a lot of times in business or like failed businesses, like they create a product and then they try to find the demand, and it's like, no man, you got to see what the market needs, and then you create that. And you did that, but you did that in a way that's like really like passion first, and I can tell you're really coming from the heart, and I just think your growth is outstanding, man. And I'm excited to see what those numbers are 6 months from now, right? Like I think it's amazing, dude. I'm super stoked for you. Every time I see you like on LinkedIn or wherever, I'm just like, there goes Alex killing it, man. Like,
thank you. Appreciate that. It means a lot.
yeah, dude. I mean, we're all business owners, right? Adam's in a 60-year-old family-owned music store, and Marcus has been in the music business for 30 years. I'm super young, so I've only been in the industry for like 5 years.
Since you got to college last month,
yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly. And so, but we're all very interested in business. You know what I mean? Like we're all very business-minded people, but we're also very like people. Especially Adam and Marcus are the nice ones. I'm kind of the jerk in the group, but Adam's whole, Chuck Levin's Music Center is all about relationships and it's all about people. But we're always talking about, Gary Vee or what's the next trend or what's happening in marketing, and same with Marcus and his wife. So I just think it's amazing. I think it's a real testament to like solid business and entrepreneurship and like creativity and adaptation for real. So I'm curious, like, what's and thank you for sharing those numbers with me. I think it's,
yeah, of course.
I think it's good because there's too many people in this industry like not getting paid enough and not charging enough, and so like they need to hear that there's like money being made, and so they can either like choose to do shit for free and wear themselves out, or they could like get on board and make some money because there's money being made.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm pretty transparent. Like people always say, what is it? Don't talk about money, politics, or religion, right? And I talk about all three of those things. Like I just have no problem with it. Like I'm an open book. Like it's fine to do that. I feel like why pretend to be somebody you're not to keep everyone happy, right? So like I share numbers and stuff like that, and so people are like, wow, that's kind of tacky, right? But I don't. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I'm going to share it, and I don't think I have a wrong heart in it. So I'm excited to share it, and I'll continue to do that. But I agree with you. Like some people think it's like taboo to make money, but I'm like, if you don't make money, you can't do what you're trying to do long term or full time. Like if it's the side hustle and you're like, yeah, I'm just trying to keep on the side because I can't really make a lot of money with it. But you probably can, and then you're serving people at a higher level. Sometimes I can even think it's a little selfish not to charge more for what you do because it could really impact the world in a bigger way. But you're limiting yourself, you're limiting what it can do. Anyway, I'm not going to go on a rant with that, but I really do have a strong opinion about that.
No, rant away, my friend. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
I agree, man.
Yeah, I got like almost kicked out of a Facebook group. Shocker.
Wow, you all laugh.
Again?
Has that happened before? Oh, again. Okay.
Like you go into like the average Facebook group and there's like a picture of me and they're like, don't let her in. Like, don't.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just kidding. That's not real. But no, this like woman came into the like all women's editors group and was like, we're looking for a new podcast manager and I want you to do like 4 monthly episodes and 4 social share videos and 4 graphics and some additional post-production work when I need you to create drops for me, and I'm willing to pay $112 a month for that. And I was like, what?
A month, not an episode. A month?
Read the room, Brenda. What the fuck? You just walked into a room full of fucking women editors, and you're like, and I said to her, I said, even Republicans in the South have more, think people have more value than that. Fuck's sake. This is like half a minimum wage, Brenda. What's going on? And then I looked at her thing, and she's the podcast queen. She's a podcast coach. So she's encouraging other people to, and I just went like straight for the jugular. I was like, let me break this down, But at the end,
I mean, that needs to happen more though. Like I think that's important because if you set that standard in industry, like I know podcasting's been around for 20 plus years at this point, but it still seems like a new industry because it's really continuing to take off and grow.
Yeah.
If we set that like foundation of, hey, you can't make money in podcasting, people are going to believe it and you're going to limit what this industry can do. I firmly believe that.
Musicians are dealing with now.
100%.
Musicians are dealing with
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
It's the same stuff. And then especially as women, and like as women, and I said one time to this woman, I'm in a male-dominated industry, and she said, honey, all industries are male-dominated. And I was like, touche. But especially in the podcast business where it's like a lot of dudes, you know, every time a woman takes like less than like a living wage for her work, she like, you actually hurt other women. Like that, you know, like if there's always some scab willing to do the work that you won't, you know what I mean? And so it's a difficult thing. So I think it is important. I think it's important, like, you know, it's okay to want to make money. And I think, you know, Marcus and Adam can both relate to this because they work with artists so much that somehow there's this idea that if you like make money or you want to make money, that you're like selling out or that you must be taking advantage and that there's something wrong with saying that you want to be able to like make money. It's a really big hurdle to get over in the creative world, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, for me, that's one of the things that we thought about when we launched PodMatch, and that's why we have a free tier. And we still have people occasionally, like most of these, I guess, almost 9,000 people that are using it right now are super, super nice, like great people, like most podcasters, right? Podcasting has that just kind of culture around it. But occasionally we get someone who will message in, they're like, wow, your pricing is just too expensive. I'm like, great, stay on the free version. It works really well. Like you don't need to upgrade. And they're like, well, I wanted like a discounted version of that the premium side of it. I'm like, I can't do that. Like we can't do that. Like, and having that conversation has been a little bit weird, but it's only happened a few times. Most people, when you tell them, hey, just stay in the free version, like, okay, can't really complain about that, right? So the people who really don't want to pay do have an option as well. That's worked for me. I mean, not all businesses can do that. Obviously, if you're going to be creating content for somebody, you have to be charging for that. But if you have the opportunity to do something where you can have that lower tier, then it helps, because a lot of our members, they use the free version. We are very happy with people using that. That is perfectly fine. I don't want everyone to upgrade. That's not why we created. Again, we created to add value, and we put that tier in there for the person maybe who's just getting started, who doesn't have a budget yet. Again, just to kind of help them out. But I think that's something to consider for anyone who's like, oh, I want to do something podcasting related. If you can have a free tier, do it. But if it's time for dollars, you have to charge for your time.
100%. So tell people who don't know, what does PodMatch do exactly? What's your jam?
Yeah, you know, the most common thing that I hear from podcasters when I describe it, they're just like, oh, like Tinder for podcasters. So that's kind of what we've created here, more or less. So basically you have a podcast guest and a podcast host, and through our algorithm, which takes into account 40 different criteria pieces. So it's going to take everything from like the language that you speak. If it's a female-only podcast and you're a male, it's going to say, okay, we're not going to match that. If you're on one side of the world, I'm on another, and your times to interview don't match up. If your bio is really different or it's similar, right? It's taking all these things into account before it makes a match, is what it does with that. So basically it's looking at these 40 different things and saying, okay, Adam and Marcus would be great to do an interview together because they both have a musical background and that's what they both like to talk about. Let's put them together. And from there you can message back and forth and decide if it's actually something you want to do or not, or you can pass. So similar to like an online dating type app, you can match or you can pass. And those are both options that you can do within the platform.
That's awesome.
That's sharp.
I've had some clients that have used not your service, because I'm going to tell them about it, but they've used some other services that were way overpriced and that basically got them on podcasts that they had no business being on. Like they obviously didn't have an algorithm, but they also like just seem to not really get, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of these services that pair guests and hosts and charge way too much money for it because there's money to be made, that are doing it just, oh, you've got a book to sell, or you got a product to sell. Let me spam all of the podcast public email addresses and see if I can get you on as many shows as I can, and then charge you $600 a month.
At least.
You know. Yeah, exactly. So it's cool to see a service where you obviously are taking into not just the business side or the opportunity, like you're actually thinking about what's going to make a good podcast, not just where can I stick my person that's paying me money to stick them in places.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, because the most important thing when we look at our core values, if you will, the most important thing is providing content to the world that really adds value and it's on purpose. So it's on the point of that show or that person's content they like to share. And the service you're describing, which is more of like a white glove, that works for some people. It is expensive, and they'll tell you it's not for most people. Most people can't afford it. And really, at the end of the day, we don't have like, how do I say this? Joe Rogan will never be on PodMatch. Like, it's just not going to happen. And other big top 100 podcasts, it's highly unlikely we'll ever have them on PodMatch. And that's perfectly fine. But what I find is when you find a really good match from two different people, even if it's a small podcast with a small audience, that's really impactful. And some of the best podcast episodes I've heard, I'm probably one of 20 people who've ever heard them, or one of 50 people who've ever heard those episodes. But it's like, man, these two had such good synergy. They went on to start a company together, work together. They came back and did a show together. Like, you hear those stories, but those are, to me, the most impactful podcast episodes I've ever listened to. And that's more what we're creating and helping people do. Again, I'm not going to be able to get you on Joe Rogan. Like, it's not going to happen. I had somebody emailing the other day and they said, hey, PodMatch looks cool. Can you get me on, I'm blanking on his name, the old boxer has the tattoo on his face.
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
She's like, I'd be a great guest for Mike Tyson. She sent me a whole pitch, and she's like, is he on there? I'm like,
Oh, my
no, I don't
God.
think he's going to be. Anyway, but that was one of the questions. But I'm like, this is just not the right place for you. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know where to tell you to go either. So
Yeah,
I love people.
I'll tell you where to go.
You know what? I actually know Mike Tyson, so I'll give him a call for you, Alex. and
What?
see- I know.
come on.
I swear to
There
God.
we
Why
go.
are we this many episodes in and we're just talking about this, Molly?
Listen,
Come
I
on.
gotta protect my sources. You know what I'm saying?
Expect more out of you. Come on.
I want to hear the three of you interview Mike Tyson. That's like my new goal in life. Actually, we're shutting down PodMatch tomorrow, so thanks for having me on the show.
That's it.
I'm just gonna sit out here and like watch all day. Be like, not yet, hasn't happened. You know, like
I'm with Alex on this one.
Okay.
That needs to happen yesterday.
Okay,
right?
Lock it in.
Do you guys want to hear my Mike Tyson story?
Yes, please.
I guess we have to now.
I have like a few of them, but I feel like I might have already told this one, but it was All-Star Weekend 2002 in DC, right? And like every beautiful black person on the planet was in Washington, DC with their spinning rims and like the TVs in the back of the headrest. I mean, it was like, it was like prime time DC nightlife. And I was invited with my friend who knows Mike Tyson and everybody else to go watch the game at the MCI Center, because that's what it was called at that time. And I went and watched the game from Mike Tyson's Skybox. And in the Skybox was Snoop, Tretch, Shine, Mike Tyson, his wife, their kid, their nanny, the bartender, and me.
nice.
Yeah.
The only white person.
No, the other.
Probably.
There was two of us, but the other one was bartending. So I was like, yeah. I felt like it was karmic retribution somehow. I'm like, yeah, you're the only one working. But yeah, man. And so I watched the game with them, and when it was over, we all went to Live or not Love nightclub, but DC Live and Platinum. They used to be across the street from one another on 12th Street. They were like the biggest hip hop clubs of all time. And so we go there, and the VIP section was well, hold on, I'm jumping ahead. We go to leave the stadium, and Snoop is taking forever because he's signing like every autograph. So we get out to where the cars are. I'm like in the last group with Snoop. Everybody jumps into these cars, and I end up in the backseat of a Rolls Royce with Snoop, right? And it's All-Star Weekend. And so it's just like bumper to bumper traffic, and I'm like in the.
That's a book title, by the way.
I know.
Molly. I don't mean to cut you off. If you want to write a book,
Seriously.
you said last group with Snoop. Like that could be
The
your autobiography
Yeah,
later on.
The last
I mean,
Entourage was Snoop, like for real,
sorry.
right?
Continue. I just couldn't get that in my head. I had to share it.
No, and mind you, this is 2002, so I'm pretty psyched. Like Snoop is still, I mean, he's still ridiculously famous 20 years later, but
Yeah.
I'm like really nervous. I'm in the back seat, and Snoop's like, "You want to smoke?" And I'm like, "Well, fuck yeah, I want to smoke some weed with you, Snoop," in the back of this Rolls Royce. But it's bumper to bumper traffic because it's like madness, and there's cops on every block. And mind you, this is DC pre like legalization, so like it's a really big deal if you're like smoking weed in DC. It was like a federal crime. Like it was like you had to really be super careful and you had to be paranoid. And there's cops on every corner. And I'm like, Snoop, what about all these cops though, And he's like, whatever, I'll just call Bill, like Bill Clinton, the president at the time. And so we're like rolling blunts in the back of the Rolls Royce, like sitting in like bumper to bumper traffic. And like every time we get to an intersection, like a cop comes up and it's like, smells the weed and then like comes up to the window and is like, "What the hell's going on in here?" And they look down, they see it's Snoop, and they're like, "Oh shit, Snoop, what's going on?" Like one cop after another. It was the most DC thing I've ever seen in my life.
my
It was
gosh.
amazing. Yeah.
Can't make this stuff up. This is a great story. I love this.
This is great.
No, and then from there we go to the nightclub, and the VIP isn't open yet, so we're all like huddled in the like area trying to get up, and I look over and I see these three men dressed insanely ridiculously like. And it was Magic Bishop Don Juan, like the pimp that always wears green and gold, and it was before like Pimps Up, Hose Down came out.
The ultimate what man?
Yeah, and so I didn't know like who he was, I was just like, who are these ridiculous men in these ridiculous outfits, and the story goes on and on and on, but.
This is a whole other podcast.
It's a whole other podcast. But I get
saga.
I gave Bishop Magic Don Juan some like really good weed, and then he called me for like 10 years every time he came to DC. I was like, tell him I died. Tell him I no longer live. I'm not on the planet. And then we were smoking upstairs, and this is the highlight of the story. I'm sitting on the couch with Snoop, and the security guards used to throw me out of the club all the time because I would never dress like a girl. I would always wear like sweatpants and like I was not like club ready, but I would always show up with like Mike Tyson or Snoop, and so they couldn't really do anything about it. So they throw me out, and then I just come back in. So it was like this game we played, and so they like come upstairs, and they me and Snoop are sitting on the couch, but he's wearing one of those like bucket fisherman hats, so they can't see his face, and we're smoking. And they come over and they like pull the velvet rope, and they like grab my arm, and I'm like, Snoop, Snoop. And he looks at me, and he looks at them and gives them that like really mean Snoop face, and they were like, oh shit, my bad. They were like, you want something to drink? I was like, yeah, Jameson, thank you. But that's my greatest story of all time, because like only in your like stoner dreams could you like be getting caught smoking weed and be able to go like Snoop, help, right? And he did. That was my
help me, Snoop Dogg.
Help me,
please.
Snoop, please. But yeah, so Mike Tyson's Skybox, man. I've been to like Mike Tyson's house in Vegas. I have a whole other life, you guys, that like most people don't even know about. It's buried.
When does the book come out?
Right?
It's called White House Black Book. I'm just kidding. That's my friend Adoria's book. But for real. Yeah. So Mike Tyson.
Ugh.
But you know what? I'm going to reach out because Adoria knows him really well. He's like her daughter's godfather. So like you never know.
Wow.
Maybe I can get Mike Tyson to do like an ad for you for PodMatch. Wouldn't that be like the most amazing like result from this podcast conversation? Like seriously.
Yeah, it'd be the coolest thing ever. Are you kidding?
Like, I'm Mike Tyson.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, for real. I'm going to work on this. I mean, worst thing he could say is no, and then we're just right back where we started, right? Like, no harm, no foul.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
No harm, no
we
foul.
got nothing to lose here. And no one tell
That's
Magic
business right
Bishop
there.
Don Juan that I'm still alive, please. Like,
Tell him to do an ad for it. Tell him to do
never
an ad
see
for our
this video.
podcast.
dude,
Right?
that would be
Come on.
that would be amazing.
Be huge.
But he used to like to mess with me. Like, I'd be someplace, and he'd look at me, and he'd be like, how you feel being the only white person here? I'd be like, pretty good, Mike. Pretty good. Just like, look down, don't make eye contact. You're like, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, little interlude brought to you by Molly's previous life.
Where do we go from here?
I know.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think where's next.
LSD. That's my game plan.
That's always Molly's next not logical
I'm
step.
like, mushroom?
in the
Never
podcast.
follow Molly to a third location. The 30 Rock reference.
Seriously, though. Yeah, welcome to the show, Alex. This is what really goes on every Monday night when we record it.
This is pretty much
It's just
it.
me.
Sweet. I like it.
Me
Having
telling
fun.
ridiculous stories of my life. Okay, so
We should draw out the logic train that takes us from PodMatch to
Yes.
Mike Tyson.
It's how many
Mind
degrees
map.
of separation between podcasting and LSD is each session.
3.
Wow.
It's
I
usually
thought you were
just
going to say
one
Mike
degree.
Tyson.
It's usually 1 or 2 degrees of separation.
Okay.
Mike Tyson's a big fan of mushrooms too, man. I'm not the only one. Big fan, big advocate.
All right.
What are you gonna do? All right. So PodMatch. So what is next for PodMatch? I know you've had all this crazy growth. 9,000 people is bananas, or in Spanish, bananos, and learned that today. Bad luck to bring one on a boat, FYI. But what is next? Because you've had Marcus is like falling down over there. You've had so much growth in such a short period of time, because you said you launched June 15th, but like, I launched Heartcast in October of 2018, but I don't think we actually made any money until like May of 2019. You know what I mean? Like those first 6 months was all just work and setting up systems and processes. And So what's next? What's next on the trajectory? What's the next milestone? Is it getting more people? Is it offering more services? Is it a hybrid of both of those things? Like what's on the docket?
Yeah. So right now, the way we launched, I mentioned MVP, right? So we just did as basic as it could be. Later on we got a logo, so we did that. But we really slowly been upgrading the UX, so the way it looks, the way it feels, and things like that. We wanted to focus first on what members were telling us. So the roadmap that we designed was based off what members would tell us. So we would do a lot of polls, and every week I'd get on calls with different members. So I'd ask them, hey, show me what you're doing on it. Let me watch you do this. So I'll do a Zoom call. And I just call it doing things that don't scale. There's a lot of companies that have really done well growing that way by doing the things that, hey, there's no way I could do this long term, but right now I need to do this. So we've really focused on, okay, here's a roadmap from the members, and I don't call them users, we call them members. We want to make sure people know this is a community, we're here together, and we present that to them, say, hey, here's what we're working on based off of what you said. So we've been really just knocking those things off the list, and this entire year has been really focused on that. So the last thing that people will notice, there's speed upgrades and back-end things that need to be changed and things like that. And but the big thing is UX, so making it look really nice. And in the process of doing this, now we're really focused on onboarding people. We bootstrapped this thing with $5,000, like I said, and we've had nothing but organic growth. We sponsored one conference toward the end of last year. Than that, it's just been word of mouth and helping us spread the word. So for the first time now, we're really going to start going after how can we intentionally let more people know about this product and see if we can really onboard people at even faster pace. But really, the last big thing for right now is going to be the UX. And we have ideas to launch other products that are outside of PodMatch, just because now we've been asking our member base. Mm-hmm. So with almost 9,000 people, we've just been asking them, hey, what else are you struggling with in podcasting? What's difficult for you? So we have some ideas that we're just now starting to explore, saying, okay, here's something else that 1,000 of our members say that they would really like. If they already trust us, can we develop this for them next? So we're looking at other pieces of software to be able to develop that would go outside of PodMatch, but kind of be in the same ecosystem, if you will.
Dude, well, if you're ever looking for investors, you let me know, because right here, I believe in you, man. Look, Adam's like,
thank you.
Yep.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
For real, man.
Hey, I got a question for you, Alex.
Yeah.
There's a lot of podcasters out there that may not know what UX is, but I want to know. I know what UX is, but what does UX mean to you?
Yeah, thank you. I forget now that I'm in this SaaS space, software as a service, that I talk on all these lingos and people are looking at me like, what the heck are you talking about? I feel bad for being that disconnected, but user experience, UX, user experience. So that means everything from where buttons are placed to the actual colors we're using. And if I want to get, and I could be totally wrong on this, someone who really knows, because I do not know this space, I will be the one to admit I am not going to be the guy who designs this. We are going to sub this out with somebody who really knows their stuff. But to me, it's, okay, the button's in the right place. Is it smooth transitions when you go from one page to another? And just figuring out, where does the mouse go? If somebody's always going to the right corner and we don't have a button over there, maybe that's where the button needs to be, more or less, right? So that's what I'm thinking is the actual user experience from start to finish. And that's what we really want to work on, is that polished side of it.
And that's a theme I'm hearing come through everything you're saying, not just about the design of your website, but also about the interaction you're having with your members. And the way that you interacted with the people at PodFest, that it's all about the people you're trying to serve. It's not about you making money. It's not about you building a cool thing for people to spend, to be a part of even. It's about you helping other people connect, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That to me is what we should all be doing, and the money comes naturally after we find that thing that it is that we're actually making a difference doing.
Yeah. I took a page from Amazon. I know not everyone loves Amazon, but their number one thing they talk about internally is their customer obsession, is what they call it. And for me, 2-day shipping that's free is now a requirement. I love that, I'm like, cool, that's just what I'm used to if I'm going to buy something that's toilet paper. Or, the normal stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to pay for shipping for that. It's not fun. If I'm going to go out and buy something cool, I don't mind. But if it's that normal household stuff, that's what I like. And they did that because they know that, hey, that's how we can have a customer obsession. So we just adopted that member obsession is what we call it. And second to that, we have what we just call ownership is the other thing. Each of us, there's 5 of us on the team now. Each of us are responsible for the experience somebody has. So if they're talking with us, did we take 4 days to get back to them via email? Did we give them a good response? And if they have trouble, we all of us say we're sorry. It's not oh, Apple had a problem. No, it's like, hey, I'm so sorry the experience didn't meet your expectation. That's not the standard we want to set. Like we have that culture built around of, hey, we're obsessed with our members and we take ownership of whatever is happening. Whether it's our fault or not, we're going to be the ones that take that responsibility. And I think by doing that, it's really set a good internal culture for us, but also it's really reflected in the membership and the people that we have that are part of this with us. Some people really love it. Like I would call them ambassadors. Like they go out there and they share it as much as we do. And I think it's just because, you know what, we really care about the people that are there. They're not another number. They're not just adding to that MRR, that monthly recurring revenue. Like they're actually somebody we care about. We want them to succeed because we know when they do, they produce an episode that impacts and changes somebody's life. And that for us is what it's all about.
Dude, you're the man, Alex.
Awesome.
Seriously. No, I mean, Alex has such good vibes, honestly. Like, and I had a meeting with him a couple weeks ago, and he was mentioned that he was in the process of like doing like 40 some odd phone interviews or something like that with like all of his with all of his like
it wasn't that many
members or so, you know, just but just like getting on the phone with people who are like supporting the business and saying like, how's it going, how's it working, what are they like, getting on the phone and asking those questions. Like that's a level of commitment to the quality that's just really impressive, and it's rare, you know, and in this industry as well. Like I think there's a lot of great people, right? But there's some not so great business people, right? So it's really refreshing to see, you know, you in this space and doing such a great job with it. I think, you know, I love it. I love the ownership and the accountability. All that stuff really, really matters. So I'm excited. You know, I've been talking with Alex. Actually, Alex and I were chatting, and I told him about my idea for my course and stuff, and he gave me a lot of encouragement, and then followed up with me and was like, "How's that going?" I was like, "You motherfucker, man! God damn it, it's going great."
Accountability that you never wanted. You're like, "Why'd I meet this person?" like
I'm on a boat with a banana right now. Leave me alone.
For real. But no, it was great because I like actually worked on it. I got a lot done, and I was excited to share with Alex. He was like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "Yeah, I actually made some progress." I was like thinking of you. You know, you're just very positive, like solid person, man. So I'm excited to see.
Thank you. It means a lot. I really appreciate that.
Sure, man. For sure. And it's not just the drugs talking. Like, don't believe Adam.
Oh, great. Tomorrow, you should be like, this guy Alex was such a loser. Why'd we have him on the show, right? No, I'm just kidding.
What podcast was I on last night?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even remember that.
Snoop was there? What?
I remember Snoop.
Actually, I'm sober now, unfortunately. But, no, I mean, I think it's great. I'm excited to see, and I've been kind of getting settled here, but I'm getting closer and started reaching out to some of my clients to say, hey, do you want me to add this? Because there's also a, you know, like, you should explain this because you'll do a better job, but like the agency side of PodMatch. And Marcus, this is really relative for you as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the agency side, when we launched, again, just listening to people who are joining, we had some people say, hey, I represent 5 clients in my PR firm. Can I have one account? And the first time we saw that, I was like, huh. And like I responded, I'm like, no, but let me work on that for you. You know, like let me figure that out. And it's actually, it's funny, PodMatch itself, like just podmatch.com versus the agency side, it's 1/3 the size. So it took us about 3 months in the background to develop that side of the program as well. It's run completely separate, but it all syncs, so you would never know. But yeah, the idea was, can we have one dashboard that you can manage up to 300 members accounts from one place, and you can have your team members actually use that. And we did such a, like, I'm trying to be humble here when I say this, but we did such a good job on that like we went back and changed some of PodMatch, like the individual side, to mirror it because it was so good. It's developed more like a project management system. So there's like color coding if it's like Adam manages these 10 people, Marcus manages these, Molly's going to handle these. It's like color coded. It has like to-do list items. We built it like really nice. So I'm really excited about that part. And we've got some great like clients that joined. Like this past week, we had the Franklin Covey group joined.
Nice.
Wow.
Which was amazing. Like they called us and said, hey, we're going to join. And Texas A&M, we're in talks with them now. They want to put on 50 of their top professors to jump on shows, which would be amazing. But like that agency side just came from us listening to people, right? Like we just heard what they said. I'm like, that's probably a good idea. We should do that. Yeah. And that's been really cool to do that as well, just because it's like, it brings a lot of people at one time, and some of them are like really like top quality. I mean, some of these professors, like they're amazing, right? I mean, so it's really been a cool thing to have that side of the program. But that took a lot of work because we had to manage between both sides. So that was really tough for us, is to be able to get that developed. It was a very slow process when you compare like starting PodMatch in just 3 short months. It's like 3 more months for like what looked like one really small piece of the puzzle, but totally worth it. It's been great.
That's awesome.
Super interesting. Super
Yeah,
cool.
so I want to bring that into Heartcast Media and offer all my current clients and say, hey, would you like me to manage this for you, get you on some other podcasts? You know, even if they don't need podcast guests for their podcasts, they should still all go be on other people's podcasts. So this is just a
Great way to grow your show.
Right, to just like streamline that for because I talked to one client. She actually is working with somebody, but she's getting ready to cancel, and she forwarded me one of the emails. And there was so many emojis in it. I was like, how old are these people? I love a good emoji, but I'm like, bro, this is like high school
threshold.
I was like, there are 27 emojis in this fucking email. Like, I think
there's probably a ratio, like one emoji to every 30 words.
Yeah.
Right? I think Marcus is into that. And so there's probably some sort of limit there. I don't know what it is. I feel like Adam would know.
I accept that. I accept that
Yeah.
ratio.
Yeah, and then the older you get, that count goes up.
It has to be less.
Actually, no, the older you get, I don't know if you've texted with your parents lately, but like,
it's all
what's
emojis.
up with-
More emojis.
Listen,
and the wrong ones.
Me and my dad have a great relationship. Like, we're super close. So this text, what I'm about to share doesn't make it sound that way, though. But I can send him like, Dad, love you, so thankful for you, the greatest guy ever. All I get back is the letter K, no matter what I say. I mean, anything, it's just K. I'm like, I think that means I love you too. Really glad you're my son. It's probably what that means. But,
Right. You have a full QWERTY keyboard now. This isn't like 1990 with the texting on the numbers.
K.
You
It's
can
like K,
use
done. Like,
It's not even okay. It's just K.
right? You know, it's just K. It's at least it's a capital K. I like to think he put a little F. I don't know.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I think there's like a weird there's like a slowdown in emoji use, and then it's just like pedal to the metal once you get over
Yeah. Okay.
60, you just everything. I'm like, Mom, I don't think you know what the eggplant means. I'm like, I think you need to.
Well, then I'm looking forward to it. You know, when my dad starts sending me like all these heart emoji and stuff, I'm gonna be like, I might get emotional at that point. I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, he really has loved me all along.
All along, yeah. You waited all these years for technology to catch up. Oh man, that's amazing. Well, I'm super stoked for you, Alex. I can't wait to see what's next. I'm gonna get my act together and get this agency thing set up. I bet you Marcus probably will too, because he's got lots of clients and works with all kinds of people.
I'm going to tell my clients about it for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You
Appreciate
know,
that.
but yeah, and then I'm sure Adam will send people your way too, just general podcasters who want to sign up for it. I think it's a great program. I think there's a lot of value in being on other people's podcasts for sure. That halo marketing, I think that's one of the biggest things that people miss in this industry is they'll have somebody on their podcast and then they don't even tell them when it came out. They don't send them any graphics. They don't give them any advance notice, or they say, oh, it's coming out tomorrow. Well, if you have a social media team, like tomorrow ain't gonna get it done, son.
Yeah.
Like that was, you need.
Actually, we tried to overcome that because so many people that were guests were complaining, saying, hey, I never know when it's, most of the time they don't even hear anything, right? That's the majority.
Yeah.
So we started asking, like when an interview was done on PodMatch, we ask hosts to estimate the day that's going to be released. And that puts it on the guest dashboard and shows them, hey, it's coming out this time. So now there's like a release calendar for episodes. Cool. And again, just comes from listening to what people are saying. But that's been, even for me, like I was a guest on 100 podcasts last year. And if I would have had that last year, that would have been really nice because people are like, hey, the episode's been out for 2 days. You're going to share it? I'm like, you just told me about it. Like, I worked 2 weeks ahead. Like, I will share it, but now it's going to be 2 weeks from now. Like, I can't. But now it's been really cool because I'm looking at these releases out. Now I can actually tell my content team that, like, hey, here's some things that are coming out. You can get ready to share these on these dates. So,
and you know what? You bring up a good point. This is a practical tip for all you podcasters listening because my wife is a social media expert too. As is Molly, as is Alex and Adam. You could be you are a social media expert. I know you won't claim to be, but you do a lot of social media stuff. Well, you mentioned content team and content schedule. If you have someone of any clout on your show, they are not posting stuff themselves, or they are at least using some kind of scheduling tool. Mm-hmm. So you have to think ahead. And if you want them to share about your show, you have to send them stuff ahead of time. You have to give them a heads up. And it's not hard, message or an email, and then just a graphic and the link. You can even, if you help them, it even helps to write the caption for them with the hashtags and the tags. Because that's another thing that so many people don't do is they don't tag their guests or and so if you do it for them, They can just copy paste, and there you go.
There you go.
I had one person's show as a guest on, and they emailed me like 3 months after it had been released. They never emailed me when it was released, but they said, "Hey, I just want to say thanks so much for being a guest and for sharing it. It's my most popular episode by 2x any other episode." I never even shared it. I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
I'm like, that's great." Like, I didn't know what to
Thanks
say
for
back
letting
because I'm
me
like, you didn't tell me it came out. Like, I didn't know it was out.
You're like, is
But,
this the most passive aggressive email I've ever gotten, or is this real? Like, I can't tell. I grew up in an Irish Catholic family, so I'd have been like, screw you.
Oh.
You know.
You're right.
Enough about that. Oh my goodness. Well, Alex, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I think it's been really awesome. I'm glad Adam and Marcus got to hang out with you and meet you and chop it up about PodMatch, and definitely get on the agency tip. We'll make sure all your links and everything are included below in the show description so people can reach out to you and get set up with PodMatch. And even if you're not even if you don't have a podcast, you can still go on PodMatch and be on other people's podcasts. But for the love of Christ, buy a microphone, please.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed doing podcasts with other podcasters. So this has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed this.
Right on. Well,
We wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't fun. So.
Right?
if nothing else, they get to laugh at me and my ridiculous life every Monday night. So that's half the fun right there. Adam just judges
That's
us
worth price of
quietly
admission
most
right
of the time. That's usually what's going on over there. But
I get to sit here and have a great time. So,
Free entertainment.
not one comment about my microphone today. So it was a victory
I
for
was
me.
about to make one. All you do is sit there and fiddle with your microphone.
the night's not over.
We did all right.
But can we talk about my new microphone placement, though? I feel like I'm channeling my inner Marcus. Do you like this? What do you feel about this?
I did notice.
It is. It is.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to say
It sounds
anything,
better,
but
right? Because
yes.
I'm like talking into it.
I think we're using the same mic, aren't we?
We are.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are.
Cool.
We are.
MV7, sure, MV7.
Boom.
Classy
We got
mics.
the boom arm going. We're killing it, man. Killing it.
That's right.
Good to go.
That's right.
I need to get me one of those headsets like Adam has.
Why? So we can burn it on the show for.
See?
Well, I had the Yeti last week, so I'm working my way up.
I'll reel you into this
Oh,
world.
Christ.
It's headset life, man.
Okay.
It's a whole different game.
Headset life hashtag. There's our hashtag.
What's
Whole
the
different
guy's name
game,
from
guys.
Star Wars? The big bad guy with the black hat. What's his name?
Darth
Darth
Vader?
Vader?
That's what
Are
you
you serious?
sound like.
What was that?
Whatever. You were like the
the
old
bad guy in Star Wars?
You,
What?
Snoop Vader.
You referred to Mike Tyson as the old boxer with face tattoos. So like I got nothing.
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
Okay.
It's not even
I'm so
fair.
sorry. You're right.
fair.
I deserve that one. I don't know who Darth Vader is either.
The mean guy with the black hat. But you guys knew who I was talking about. But that's
knew.
what you sound like when you get it extra close to your grill piece. It's really special. It's really great. Yeah. All right, guys. Well,
I am your father.
exactly. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on the podcast club. And we are super excited to have Alex on. So go check out PodMatch, join up. There's no affiliate links. We're not trying to get rich over here. We just want you to be on good podcasts and get better at interviewing and have a reason to buy a new podcast microphone. So go to Podcast Outfitters, get you a podcast microphone. And then
That's right.
Marcus will show you how to use it.
Podcast Audio Lab.
And then I'll stop making fun of you for not having a microphone. Everybody wins. Okay, so see you on PodMatch, and we'll catch you next week.
That's right.